Move!
What? I'm just sitting here.
You're in my way!
But this is my chair.
Well, I'm gonna tell the guild.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, one of the fun things going on in Monster Hunter Wilds along the life cycle of the game post-release is that Capcom is not only responding to requests from players and implementing changes into the game as a result of these, but they are also very deliberately and directly telling us what is happening as a result of player feedback itself through these guild reports, where they give us updates on changes that are coming or have already come through these interactions. Today we got a new guild report announcing 3 new notable changes that will be coming to Wilds, along with the final proper update for the base game, the one that's happening on February 18th. And beyond just being like solid changes, they also have some potentially interesting implications to discuss about the future as well. So let's talk about these changes, what they could mean going forward, and my thoughts about all of it as a whole too. First up then, please make it easier to efficiently play barrel bowling multiple times in a row. Barrel bowling is great, the rewards are useful, so players simply want it to be a more streamlined experience to do it repeatedly. The developers heard this and they interpreted it in 2 different ways that should be able to pretty much just appease everyone, because they are giving us the option to just instantly barrel bowl again after you finish a round of barrel bowling, which means that you can just spend more time bowling if you actually enjoy the activity itself, or you can now use 10 barrel bowling vouchers at a time for 10 times the reward, sort of like how the Steamworks worked back in Iceborne. And this is specifically for people who just want the rewards from barrel bowling but aren't a big fan of the actual activity itself. So they made notable changes to barrel bowling that should make you happy, whether you are someone who just wanted to bowl more or someone who dislikes the bowling but wants the rewards from it. Either way, really. The second item on the list here today, please do something about the handler getting in the way during hunts. Handlers constantly walk in front of your camera, they walk in front of combat itself, and they can actually physically move you too. They just also are adding a little bit of weird visual clutter on top of that. But at the same time, the immersion of the handlers being around you permanently is quite nice too. The devs responded to this though by saying that they have made adjustments to the handlers' behavior to prevent them from actually like being able to push the hunter for people who just wanted to avoid that part itself, but they also are going to be adding the option to fully hide handlers during hunting. So if you like the immersion, you can just keep them out, but if you just want the actual minimal amount of visual clutter possible, you can now choose to hide them back at the camp instead once this update is applied. And I love that they are adding this level of extra setting, because this is just big time quality of life, especially not like just removing something entirely, but giving players an option to choose and customize their own experience as they wish. The third entry today is the most interesting and the most potentially wave creating, which is please increase the number of permanently available event quests in the game, to which the response is that every one of the 9-star tempered event quests will become permanently available with this update, as well as all 29 limited time event quests that reward tickets used to craft unique equipment. So first off, great news for this point in the game's life cycle. Obviously, the main point and idea behind having the event quest cycle like they have been is to keep player engagement, keep you wanting to return to the game at specific times to get specific rewards that you're looking for. And mostly, it's to make the festivals feel more eventful, as during festivals, all event quests return, so it's like a big call to action to come back and get all the stuff that you may have missed since the last festival. From Capcom's perspective, this makes a lot of sense, and from a player perspective, I do enjoy the impact of the festivals in this sense, because it feels like there is a portion of the player base that basically only is active during festivals or title updates, and sort of adds to the feeling of community surrounding the game as a result if the festivals are a part of this. That said, Iceborne did this same thing. After Iceborne's final update, they made it so all event quests were just permanently available, so there was no longer a timed rotation, and you could just do whatever you wanted whenever you wanted to do so. And so they are now repeating that same concept after the final update comes to the base game of Monster Hunter Wilds. This brings up a number of questions in my mind, and a bit of an interesting discussion to have based around event quests right now in general. Monster Hunter has had event quests for an extremely long time, and before Monster Hunter World, before we had the modern games, you would just download event quests once they were released, and then you would have the ability to go on those hunts forever from that point forward. It was like updating your game. You were adding content to it, simple as that. Monster Hunter World changed that concept to be limited time events, but then Rise and Sunbreak being made with portable gaming in mind, they actually backtracked on that choice and swapped back to permanent event quests, and a lot of players were happy to see that return. Then in Monster Hunter Wilds, we went back to limited time event quests. Along the way, some event quests were made permanent though, like the arch-tempered monster quest, which personally I think is the perfect middle ground, the ideal sort of compromise between the two mindsets here, because arch-tempered monsters give you equipment that is highly relevant to use in actual endgame combat, in build crafting, and a lot of the best builds that we have, the ones that you would want to use to craft for things like the new title update monsters, so to prepare for new title updates. All of these use equipment from arch-tempered monsters. So having those cycle and rotate just felt really weird to me, and making them permanent felt like a very positive change. The other event quests that are mostly just for layered equipment above all else, not really meant to be used for actual like equipment that you will use in proper builds, I think those are more fine to be on rotating timers. I think my personal preference would still just be to have everything permanently available once released. I think that is the best way for the players. I think that is the most player-friendly option, but I also cannot deny that the limited events make festivals more important, and with the amount of effort they put into the design of the festivals, and in Wild especially, stuff like adding new songs for the diva to sing during festivals too, it just sort of makes it feel even more significant to have more players active because of the event quest being available. That said, a really big important distinction here is that this change, the permanenting of event quests here, is being included in the guild report, and it is being listed as being a response to the general request of permanently available event quests. When this happened in Iceborne, it was seemingly just, hey, we have no more updates to give you, so have this as a treat. Whereas now in Wilds, it looks like they are directly doing this in response to player feedback. And that begs the question, is this different? Will this be a more permanent change for the series? Is this only happening now because it's the final update and will then be going back to limited event cycling in the expansion for Wilds? Or does this mean that the expansion might also go down the route of just having permanent event quests once they're added in, instead of limited availability? Of course, I'm not Capcom, so I can't say what they will or won't do, but I would say that the specific framing of this being as a response to a request from the community means that it is entirely possible they would commit to this for the expansion too. But I also wouldn't get my hopes up too high unless we actually hear proper confirmation from them on this. I think it is definitely a possibility, but not necessarily likely as of this moment, as it just benefits the company too much to try and extend the life cycle of the game by offering limited event quest periods in between the major updates to keep you interested beyond just hunting for the infinite grinds like RNG talismans or perfect artian weapons. That said, you could argue this does create higher player retention, and while this is a thing that affects Capcom as a company, sure, and a thing that they can say to shareholders and stuff like that, it's not like it's some nefarious thing either. It's not necessarily being done just to make numbers look bigger, because the reality is that there is a lot of passion that goes into creating Monster Hunter, and they are happy to look for any reason to give people another excuse to keep playing the game longer, to keep engaging with it, and keep finding all the smaller details littered around the world that they put in there. And more people playing the game often also means a better experience for people looking to engage with multiplayer as well. There are still people starting to play Wilds for their first time even now. People that are starting their experience and will want to maybe engage with multiplayer along their journey too. And for that journey to be successful, you need to have players still around in that multiplayer system for them to group with. Personally, I think where we are right now before this update with event quests is the ideal long-term scenario. Any quest that offers relevant gear, things that are actually like important to endgame builds, should be permanently available. Event quests that offer things like gestures or equipment that's more intended to just be like silly layered armor specifically, those are probably okay to be time limited instead. The further argument to this, however, is that limited time event quests also force you to be permanently online to use an event quest. I think this is more of a concern for the portable focused Monster Hunter games as opposed to the ones created for PC and home console, so it's not as big of a deal for something like Wilds, especially because to actually get the quest to begin with, you would have to go online, so it's not like having them permanently available would mean that you don't need online memberships or stuff like that. But the fact that you cannot do event quests without being online is a direct cause of the event quest being active during limited time periods. Otherwise, the only online requirement would be to download the quest data itself to begin with, and then the quest would just be a part of your game forever. So there are definitely a lot of pros to having event quests be permanently available, but it also doesn't solve all of the problems that people have with the system. The other thing that I want to talk about just a bit is event quest quality, because back in the day, there were some absolutely wild event quests for Monster Hunter as far as what they did with the quest conditions themselves. Even as recently as Monster Hunter World, we had ridiculously over or undersized monsters. We had the Mosswine New Year's event, where they coded a giant Mosswine to basically have the Bulldrome moveset, which was absolutely hilarious and such a unique quest. And in Monster Hunter Wilds so far, the actual content of the quests themselves has been quite tame in comparison. We have had fun multi-monster quests, we've had large gold crown monsters next to small gold crown monsters, and recently we even had like a massive outbreak of paratoads where there's just a ridiculous amount of paratoads on the map, and that was sort of cool too. But the other examples that I'm mentioning, the things from World and Iceborne, had monsters that were just far beyond gold crown size limits in either direction, and that is super wacky and fun, and I miss that type of thing. Point being, so far in Monster Hunter Wilds, as much as I do love this game, I need to point out that the actual event quests themselves, the quest parts of them, outside of things like getting 9-star versions of low-tier monsters, which is fun, most of the quests have been extremely tame and not all that exciting compared to previous game event quests. On the flip side of that though, the actual rewards from event quests had been pretty incredible. Things like Geladron chest and the Woodwood helmet alone, even if nothing else, these are both from event quests, and these are some of my favorite things in the entire game. So it's not like I'm saying I dislike event quests as a whole, because event quest rewards have been absolutely cracked for a lot of them in Wilds. They've been incredible. It's much more so that the quests themselves, the actual hunt that you engage with, could absolutely push the boundaries a lot more than they have. Like, why not give us a 20-foot tall Yonkut Ku or a 3-foot tall Gravios? Play around with it, engage with your systems, have fun with it, and give us silly things to do. Why not take like a small monster, scale it up to 5 times the size, give it a bunch of health, and then make that an event quest target? There is lots of just weird, ridiculous, wacky stuff that event quests have done in previous games that they could do again for Wilds, because event quests are the perfect playground for that type of thing. And this is something that they've done before, but haven't yet in Wilds, so I hope to see that style of event quest return again in the future too, maybe in the expansion, if not in the expansion then in future games, but I want that stuff back. All that to say, we have some good quality of life changes coming to Monster Hunter Wilds in the update that happens a couple of weeks from now, and it affects a few different parts of the game. It is all good stuff changing, and again, the event quest being made permanent leaves open the question of exactly how event quests will be handled moving forwards, especially given the context of the guild report itself. And then from there, I just wanted to talk a bit about my own thoughts on event quests and how they have been handled in Wild so far, and my hopes for how that might shift for event quests in the expansion whenever that does come into existence. I hope you've all enjoyed this and let me know your own thoughts down below, your preferences on limited availability versus permanent access event quests, as well as the quality of the quest rewards and the quest content itself too. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.